one of your little crochet dildos for good luck? No, I'm just kidding.
I do. You just demonetized me in the first minute. Hi, everybody. It's fine. I don't care. This is so much fun. So we have the fabulous Dianne Etex herself, Marisa.
Mm,
Welcome.
mm.
Well, this is going to be fun. It's so good to see you. We talk all the time, but I don't actually get to see you. So this is great. This is great. So,
Yeah, you are. So I love talking to you and thank you. You've been like a shining light of the abyss of what can happen, within this anti-Scientology movie. I promised myself after watching Miriam's show, I'm like, I'm not going to say anti-Scientology community anymore. It's a movement, because I think it's a state of mind. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like a state of mind that we all have, and it's a movement and something you have in your soul. So, um,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I,
a passion, isn't it? You know?
yep,
Yeah. I
I
love
would.
that.
And then you, yeah, just talking to you, honestly, I think it's been educational for me because, I was not allowed to do anything about Jesus or the Bible or, I mean, so the stuff you talk about, it's like fascinating to me. Yes, vice versa for you, like how
Yeah.
Scientology
Right.
is being to you. I'm like, wow, a Bible cult, like that seems
There's so
so.
many of them.
Are there a lot? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, I know. I think I've told you the story many times how I went to Donnie Swaggart's little sermon. Did you have to grow up listening to Donnie Swaggart?
Oh, yeah. Well, Jimmy Swagger, that's his father, right? My adopted mom used to get up at 6:30 every morning and listen to him. And he'd be like,
Oh,
"Praise the Lord." Yeah, and oh my God. Yeah, it was just awful. But yeah,
are you
she was a
serious?
holy roller, and she was baptized with the Holy Ghost. And she would speak in tongues. I don't know, something like that. Just
Oh
babble.
my
Yeah.
God, it's I could seriously talk to you for days and days because I it's just something that I've just. Man, it is for me. And sometimes I will catch myself. And what's so funny is like my niece, you've heard of the story of my little nephew that
Yeah.
unfortunately passed away. Still have a surviving older nephew. He's like 33. And then my nephew, my niece, she's gosh, I think she's almost 30. She's like 28 or 29. And she became a Phoenix firefighter because of him, because of what happened to her little brother.
Oh,
But I
wow.
will catch
Amazing.
some watching late at night, like these televangelist shows, and her name's London, and I'm like, London, what are you doing? It is funny because we all are like
Yeah.
fascinated. We watch it all like, wow, this is like just something we've never seen before.
Yeah, it can be very entertaining, I'm sure. And yeah, likewise with the Scientology stuff, it's really fascinating to me because I see so many similarities and I felt like an instant connection with so many of you in this community. I love me the second gens, you know that. I always tell you that. And I've learned so much from you because although you're one of the younger, the second gens, you're also, I consider you a veteran. And you have your own mind, you think your own thoughts, you don't give as what is I always mess it up. What does Serge say? Literally a shred of an F. A shred of an
Oh,
F.
some funny. That guy says, you
Yeah,
know what? I say literally all the time. So
you
I'm like,
do.
he did this and that. So when he said literally Surge, I'm like, I guess that name could not have suited him better.
Yeah,
Literally
and
Surge.
literally Michael. Blow drill, there he is. Marisa, the OG. Yes. Oh,
Oh,
degraded,
drill.
degraded daughter, Alicia. Not a shred of an F. That's right. You've got
Hi,
tons of
It's nice
people in here.
Talk to you soon. There's so many people I don't talk to, like Alicia. I would love to get to know Alicia. Find me on Facebook. I don't really use Twitter. I'm more of a Facebook person. I'm one of those like people that I just once I get stuck in a routine, I'm like I'm here forever. And I've had Facebook forever, man. And I talk a lot and I write a lot, and I don't know how people can use Twitter, honestly. I've tried, and I'm like, I try to get an idea and then it cuts
Mhm.
me off. I'm just like, I can't do this. So, because it's like, what is it, like a 160 letter cutoff or
Oh, yeah.
something?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I have a Twitter, but I wouldn't even know how to log into it, honestly. So we've got some questions already. I have a bunch of things started. Laura Font, hey Laura, wants to know, can you give a brief overview of your story? I'm sure I've heard it, but I don't recall. So if you can just kind of give us a background, and then I have lots of questions about what's going on now, and everyone wants to know your input. So if you can give us a little bit of background, who you are and where you come from. The
Yeah.
capsule
Oh,
version?
it's hard to find. Yeah, I guess put it in a encapsulated version, but I was born in 1978, and my parents were Scientologists before I was even born. I think they found Scientology in 1975 in the Bay Area, California. So I was born in Hayward, and according to Scientology beliefs, I picked my parents. So
Right.
maybe I might have been a Vietnam veteran and just floating around for a few years and seeing my parents in Hayward, California, like that. I want to be them because my parents are so smart and they love L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know. That's according to what Scientology believes. But
Makes sense. Yep, makes sense.
I so no, I literally was born and raised in Scientology. When I say I was born into Scientology, I'm not exaggerating. Like I was literally in my mother's womb, and God only knows what the heck she was doing. I honestly don't want to know because I know they have pregnancy, this and all this other stuff. But um, so and I know Christy Gordon has seen this. I've posted this. I'm one of the only people that I know of. I actually have a picture of my naming ceremony when I was born,
Really?
which, yeah, it's from
Oh,
1978. And it's really
huh.
funny because you see my dad, he's got like his afro thing going on, and my mom, with her little kind of hippie do going, and me as the little baby. And what's funny is like the Scientology minister that's, I guess doing the baptism or naming ceremony, he has long hair. They all look like total like hippies from the 60s and 70s. It's so funny.
Wow. So
But
you
yeah,
didn't so how old were you? You didn't have a name yet? You were already born and they did
no,
a naming
I
ceremony?
no, I had a name, but
Okay.
in Scientology they call it a naming ceremony instead of a baptism.
Okay.
And it's like basically like you're born and you're introduced into the planet basically. So there, and I've seen because there's like a whole minister's handbook of, weddings, births, deaths, whatever. I've seen the ceremony for births, like a naming ceremony, and I think it goes a little something like, here is your mom, and then they say their name. Here is your dad. You're on planet Earth, and they kind of take, give you like a touch, like a locational, and then you
Right.
touch the walls where you're at. And even though you're like a little 1 month or 2 month old baby, so they take you like, here's the wall
Interesting.
here, and here's this wall, and you're on
Well,
planet Earth, and like,
'cause
don't be
you were
scared.
born before, so they're telling you here you're on planet Earth. Here you
Yeah,
are.
so that's like the baptism is after you're born. They introduce you to earth like you're born and you're out of your mother's womb, and
Mhm.
they just introduce introduce you to like your surroundings and your parents. And yeah, so I have a picture of that. It's kind of funny looking back on it, but my story essentially is, yeah, I was born into Scientology. Um and gosh, I was born in California and I have a half sister and a half brother,
Cricket.
and my grandmother raised them for my mom, and at some point my
Mhm.
grandmother moved to Arizona. I was still in California with my parents. And then my mom was like, we need to go to Arizona to pick up, my other two children. And my half brother and sister didn't meet me till they were like 13 and 14 years old. So we went to,
Wow.
I was like 3 years old. And back in the 80s, the cable TV business was really huge. You're talking like Ronald Reagan era. So my
Right.
father got a very high paying job in Arizona for like the cable TV industry, like installing all of the wiring and all that stuff throughout Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, instead of going back to California like we were supposed to, we ended up in Arizona and I've been stuck here ever since. Um,
Stuck here.
yeah, and yeah, I like it out here, but oh my God, it's like I hate it at the same time. But unlike California, California has a very large population of Scientologists, and in Arizona, there's really not. I mean, it's really. I'm not exaggerating when I say like all the Scientologists in Arizona are like the right now they're like the same Scientologists that were around when I was a little kid. When I
Really?
prayed,
So they don't have one of those centers that they body route people in? No.
no, there's need
Mhm.
people because man, they'd only be body routing probably one person a year, honestly.
Oh my god.
Even though we're a large city, I mean, God, Phoenix is a very large city now. We're the fifth
Yeah.
largest city in the United States. But what happened was my half sister ended up becoming the executive director. I think she was like 18 or 19, so I was only like probably 9. I think I was like 9 years old. She
Right.
became the ED of the Church of Scientology of Arizona for about close to 15 years. And so during that time, I mean, yeah, my parents, it was just hardcore. In my household, it was nothing but L. Ron Hubbard tapes, L. Ron Hubbard lectures. I would have to go with my mother to the org all the time. Um, they recruited me to join staff when I was 7 years old. Which
7 years old. What does that
yeah,
look like for a 7-year-old joining staff like you worked in the org? You were
yeah,
on
well,
staff? Wow.
it's I guess it's interesting because those of us who come from a public Scientology upbringing, it's like we don't understand Sea Org, and I can tell conversely Sea Org doesn't understand like what goes on when you're raised as a child in a public Scientology upbringing. But when you're a public Scientologist, like an adult, like my parents, and you just want to go up the bridge, it's really easy. But when you're a child growing up in a public household, it's really hard, man. It's
Mm.
shit. Like I remember I did have to sign a billion-year contract. I remember seeing it. I remember signing it. I don't know if this is something that was done back in the 80s. And what people have to understand is the Phoenix org is a very small org. So we
Mhm.
have very tiny, I guess our materials and the things we have are very half-assed compared to like Los Angeles and Florida. And all in all, Scientology, it's sort of like this belief system where no one knows what the hell they're doing. And I mean, honestly.
Right. I can
And
imagine.
we have all of these lectures and things from L. Ron Hubbard, but
Yeah.
we always told like, oh, Los Angeles and Flag are like the pristine places to go to. So I I honestly think it's like no one cared. And it's so strange looking back on it. It's a
Mhm.
belief system where there really was not a professional or anyone. I'm old enough to remember L. Ron Hubbard. I think L. Ron Hubbard passed away when I was 6 or 7. And I remember Heber Jensch. I remember going to events. And when I say that I
Really?
went, yeah, oh yeah, I remember Heber. He used to speak before David Miscavige. Heber Jensch would speak at all of the Scientology events. And I used to think Heber Jensch was Ed McMahon. You know that guy on like he's passed away. But you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
publicist,
like
but
Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon, and then, like, didn't he do, like, the sweepstakes or something? He'd knock on people's door. He does kinda look like him, alright,
yeah,
I
I
sort of
thought
remember seeing Heber Gent. Yeah.
I thought they were like the same person. And I'm like, dude, this is weird. Like Heber Dench and Ed McMahon are like the same person. But I do like all of the small orgs like Phoenix, Utah, New Mexico, you name it, even the Midwestern orgs, what happens is the large orgs like Flag and Los Angeles, they would tune in, they would hook up like a giant satellite and hook it in so that all of the small orgs across the United States of America could see what's going on. So that's how, and then we would get invited in Phoenix, like, hey, it's the IAS event, it's the birthday game, it's this, it's that, it's, time to collect money for the ideal org. I mean, I can't count on two hands how many events I've been to. It's too many to count. But I remember seeing, yeah, Heber Jensch speaking. And although I was a lot younger, um, it was weird. It was like all of a sudden Heber was just like just not around. And then boom, then there was like David Miscavige. And he was obviously, I guess, energy level wise, very full of energy and like we are going to blast the planet into planetary dissemination and blah blah, like all just, oh my god, it was like really
Billions
crazy.
and billions. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, it's
I
so
just made the
speaking like
dog bark. I just scared the dog going, "Billions."
oh man, it is how he would talk. And I get a lot of mail stuff from Flag and
You
from
do
these.
still?
Yeah, oh my God. Once you are put on a Scientology mailing list, even if you're declared or you're no longer around, they will send you mail probably for the rest of your life. And what's funny
Even
is,
if you're an SP, are you considered an SP?
yes. Oh,
Okay,
wait, no, 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 I'm not. I'm not. See, what's
you're
weird
not
about me, my mom is considered an SP. My mother got declared. I'm
declared,
considered
right.
an anti-Scientologist. So it's very, very weird. My story is kind of odd because although I was born and raised in Scientology, I was sort of used just for stats and for the org to get a lot of money. And they
Mhm,
would hit parents up, hey, can you buy Marisa this? And can you buy her that? And although I didn't want any of it, and I think that the people on staff knew that, but I still brought money in. My parents were the money makers.
mm,
And so, like when 2006 came around, oh, actually, I should say before that, there's questions they ask you. They're the security questions, the sec
mhm,
checks. I
mhm,
was asked those constantly, like throughout my childhood. And one of those questions are, do you know anyone who is antagonistic towards Scientology? And I remember being like 9 years old and just being very honest, because I went to public schools
Mhm.
and all my friends were Catholics. I'm not exaggerating, like 99% of my friends believed in Jesus, went to church. And so I would get asked these fact check questions like, is anyone antagonistic towards Scientology? And I would say, yes. And the auditor would say, okay, who? And I remember saying, everyone. I'm like, everyone I is antagonistic towards Scientology.
Everyone, right?
Yes. And
That's hilarious.
because I was a child and I was a public child and my parents were bringing in money, they just kind of blew it off like, "Oh, okay, this little kid doesn't know what she's talking about. Whatever. We're going to brush this one under the rug. The parents are still
You
paying
had the
attention."
same personality back then. I can see that. That's great.
But I mean, I was on it. Like, I really
Yeah.
wanted to know. I found it very strange because, as I explained it, I grew up with one foot in the Scientology universe and
Mhm.
then the other foot in like the real universe of, you know, society, you know, everything, war, like how I keep talking about Ronald Reagan, the Cold War, drugs,
Yep.
missiles, weapons, the problems going on planet Earth. But yet
Mhm.
I would go to org and it's like, we're saving everybody and we're clearing everyone and we're doing this and that. And so it really was like a strange parallel universe, sort of, you know, again, half of me seeing the real world,
Yeah.
and then I'd come home and then I'd have to go to the org with my mom on the weekends. And the other half is like this world of David Miscavige and Scientology. So my mind was like, just this is
Yeah.
very, you know,
I remember that
and
feeling too, cause like, I couldn't be normal. I couldn't like everybody else was, like, going, to dances and being with their friends and stuff, and because, like, I had to go home and pray and go to church 3 times a week, and I was like a freak. My parents were
no,
very strict, though. I couldn't even, like, watch movies or listen to rock music because they were, like, so pure. They're wicked holy rollers, but I do kinda understand that, like, weird, like, set apart, like, I felt like a freak because nobody understood my brand of Christianity because it was so out there.
no, that's interesting because I do have a couple of friends that grew up like you in your type of, religious cult, the Holy Rollers
Yeah,
Fanatic.
inappropriate have her too. So we talk about it too. Yeah,
Like,
it's
oh, and I
crazy.
and I did grow up with several Jehovah Witnesses in my classroom, and I remember every morning they would have to be excused when the Pledge of Allegiance was said. They were not
Mhm.
allowed to Pledge of Allegiance. If we ever celebrated a birthday, like someone's
I know.
birthday, be excused for that. We every Friday we would have like a
It's so
kids
sad.
meet.
Yeah.
The Jehovah Witness kids would have to be excused for that. They couldn't celebrate holidays.
Cricket. That's why Marilyn rocks out so hard. Yeah, we're free now. We can get really
No,
wild and crazy, right?
no,
Absolutely.
exactly. I do know,
I
what's interesting is I have, you know, a young daughter and then an older daughter. And my oldest daughter, her father comes from a Seventh Day, I think it's
Oh,
Seventh Day Adventist, but
Adventist?
it's, yeah, which is, it's similar, I guess, to Pentecostals, right? Kind of.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's, like, strict, but, yeah, a little bit out there. I think they're vegetarians. Yeah, they're very strict. It is pretty culty. Everyone I know that has been in that religion that left say it's pretty culty, and actually, what's his name? David Koresh was, his sect, they call it, like a sects. SDCT, not the fun kind. They were from the Seventh Day Adventists, I believe. Yeah. And look what happened there. Yikes. Yeah.
Well,
Oh my
no,
God. What are you doing awake, girl? Helicopter.
Hey, Kelly,
It's
helicopter,
yeah,
and
we got
I love the
cricket.
names.
Yeah. Oh, I saw
My
someone else. Where is he? Where is he?
daughter's dad, though, is unfortunately, I got to give the trigger warning, but he's no longer alive because of, yeah, he walked across the freeway when he was 21 and,
Oh
you
no.
know, is no longer here, to put it nicely. But I think he had underlying mental conditions like schizophrenia, but back then in the 90s, that sort of thing was not talked about. And especially me coming from a Scientology upbringing,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I bet.
he didn't even, my parents ingrained in me that mental illness does not exist. There's no such thing as mental illness. And my daughter's dad, I met him when I was 15, and I had her when I was 1 month before I turned 18. And he was really a brilliant person, extremely smart. You know, he was an artist. He could draw like amazing pictures, but he would always get on these rants about the Bible, just start preaching like weird verses from, and I shouldn't say weird, like he
Yeah.
knew I didn't know what he was talking about. And I remember one time he came to my house. I was in high school and my parents were gone at work, and we had a big Airedale, dog in our living room. And he basically tried performing like exorcism on my dog in front of me. He just wigged out and thought that like Satan was in dog's body, and I couldn't control. I mean, he was very strong, and I'm like, "Can you please stop?" He almost killed my dog by
Mm,
choking him, and I don't know what was done to him, but I think it was like exorcism type stuff. And you hear about that, like I think in a lot of Hispanic, I don't
yeah.
want to say a lot, but it's more common, I think, in Hispanic cultures and
It was
communities
in
where,
my church too. It was in the cult too, like when I was growing up and then in the cult. In fact, one of the main reasons why we started to, like, attempt to leave, took us 2 years to actually leave after this, but my daughter had exorcisms twice, and
oh,
Marlene
sorry.
Sweeney was the cult leader, said that she had the spirit of Jezebel, like the harlot, in her at 7 years old. She was just a cute little blonde with pigtails that played with her dolls. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, sick woman. But that was part of that religion, the demonology. Yeah, it's just
And I don't
crazy.
want to get,
But
I know I don't want to get too deep into it, but I do know a lot of deep things about like what you've dealt with that,
yeah.
probably very evil. And, I don't want to take it down a bad
Yeah,
rabbit
well, we could definitely
hole.
talk about that.
I know
Yeah.
about
So
the
I've got some
stuff
questions,
too.
but you said you moved to you were in the org working at 7, but you went to public school. And then when you were like teenager, early 20s, you just kind of didn't really do it anymore, right? Or you were still living
Uh,
at home or
no, the last time I had anything to do with Scientology, I was 22, so I'm 44, almost 45 right now. Um, and yeah, I always found Scientology to be extremely weird, and I had the advantage. That's why my heart goes out to those that did endure the cadet org and Sea org, and those that did not get to experience the public universe.
Mhm.
Um, man, oh man, those people had it way worse than me, and I always make a point of that. I'm like, hey man, my
Yeah. Well,
story. But I tell my story because if there's one of me that went through this, there's gotta be shitloads of other me's out there, public me's going through this, public
yeah,
kids that are
absolutely.
being to go through this. That's why I tell my story. Because what people don't understand, they always hear about Sea Org, but majority of Scientology is comprised of public Scientologists like my parents. I would say it's
Mhm.
80 to 90%. Sea Org is a very small percentage of Scientology because the requirements to get into Sea Org, they're actually very strict.
Hmm.
You can't Sea Org if you've ever been committed in a mental institution. You can't join Sea Org if you've been under certain psychiatric medications. I was disqualified from joining Sea Org because I did LSD at 15, which is a little bit younger than most, but um,
Right.
I couldn't join Sea Org because of that. I think if you are related to anyone that's in a high, like let's just say Joe Biden is your uncle, or even Matt Gates, whether it's
Really?
Republican or Democrat, like if
Hmm.
if some in your family is a high level politician, do you believe you're excluded from Sea Org? You have somebody that's a high level or a media person, you can't
Hmm.
join Sea Org. But we all know
Right.
Greta Van Susteren is a Scientologist, but Greta Van
Yeah.
Susteren, she's a public Scientologist. They'll take her money.
Hmm.
They'll be like, you can go up the
Of
bridge and
course.
we'll give you your millions of dollars, but yeah, you ain't getting into the Sea Org, which I don't think, you know, somebody that makes a lot of money, you know, what's funny though? My half sister's dream was to join the Sea Org. And it was so, now that I look back on it, like that was her lifelong goal. She wanted to
Mm.
join the org. And they would tell her, because she was the executive director of the org, and they're like, you cannot join Sea Org until the Phoenix org goes Saint Hillsides, which that was a saying back in the 90s and early 2000s, like going Saint
St.
Hillsides.
Hill size. Right.
That's what it would say on all the promo and all the flyers, like we're gonna go Saint Hillsides, because then I guess St. Hill had a shitload of staff members and people. And who knows, because we're in America and St. Hill is obviously in the UK.
Right.
That could have been a line of bullshit that Elron or David Miscavige was feeding people. St. Hill
Mm.
could very well maybe have only had a couple hundred people. Who knows? But my sister dedicated 15 years of her life, 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, and she didn't even reach AP1. She's not
Really.
even. Yeah, I think she barely made it to clear.
Hmm.
Um, but all that time, and I'm like, man, you could have received a doctorate degree. You could have been, like a
Yeah.
PhD something,
Yeah.
like a real PhD, not a. I won't go there, but you know what I'm saying. Like she could have had a real degree, like a doctorate of something, if she
Yeah.
dedicated the amount of time she did in
Right.
Sea Org. Um, and
Yeah. Sounds like
I
she had a really like solid, like extremely good work ethic. But what motivated her? Like, why did she stay 18 hours a day? Was she like, she was commanded to do that, right? Like her supervisors,
I always
she
tell
was
people,
expected.
I think that there's a certain personality of people that are just born to be led.
Hmm.
And I say about my sister, if she was not the ED of the Phoenix org, she probably would have ended up as a nun in a convent. That's just her personality. We don't talk that much. I find her to be a bit odd. Um, she's just someone that's like, I wish I was a psychiatrist, but she's one of those people that she's very complacent. She has to be told what to do, where to go, how to do it. Um, and I told you how I joined staff when I was 7. I did join
Hmm.
staff again when I was 19.
Hmm.
And this is what really made me not want to talk to her. she gave somebody my entire PC folder, my pre-clear folder, from the time I was like 5 years old to 19. It has all of my OW write-ups, all of my audit sessions. And looking back on it now, when I think of like, okay, what's the worst thing I did when I was like a child up to 19? I probably have a lot of things in there of like humping my teddy bears and my pillows. You know how
Yeah.
masturbation, like a big, I probably humped my, yeah, and I'm not joking. I mean, even though it sounds funny, but it's
Yeah,
actually
I'm
really the
sure.
honest truth about it.
Yeah,
Like
that's embarrassing. Yeah, that's just not right.
as a child, I used to have to write up, like, hey, write up every time you masturbated. And I'm like, 7, 8 years old. And I would write up things like that, and but she gave this guy my pre-clear folder when I was 19, and she handed it to him and it was like, "Hey, I need staff members. I want to get out of here. I want to join Sea Org or go to St. Hill, and we really, really desperately need staff members. Go to my sister's house and find her ruin and get her to join staff."
Hmm.
So yeah, this I remember his name, and I don't mind saying names at all.
Go
It's
for it.
just that, and I'm
It's your
like,
truth.
man,
You talk.
if these people are still out there, I would like to talk to them and know what were you thinking? What are you doing today? How do you feel about what you did to a teenager? Yeah, his name was Patrick Jaeger, sort of like Jägermeister, but Patrick, yeah, it was like Jaeger. And he rode his bicycle from Mesa, Arizona to where I lived, and it was about a 40-mile ride. But that's what staff members do, and I know they do it in LA.
Hmm.
They'll put ice on your bike if you don't have a ride, and they will make you and say, "Hey, go ride 50 miles to so and so's house." So he came to my house, and at the time I was 18. My daughter was barely a year old, my oldest daughter. And yeah, my parents were still diehard Scientologists back then. And I invited him inside, and he's like, "Can I talk to Marisa outside in the backyard?" And literally, it was 4 hours of him finding my ruin. I think as like adults, it probably takes a lot longer because as an adult, your brain is developed, and you have a capacity to be like, "Hey, screw you. I'm not going to do what you
Right.
say." But I remember him starting off saying like, "Hey, Marisa, I know that you're a single mother. You have a 1-year-old daughter, and you had her when you were 17. You're an unwed teenage mother. Do you know what society thinks of people like you?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I do, honestly. They think that we are deadbeats, and they basically think we're whores and we're useless." He's like, "How does that make you feel?" And I'm like, "Well, 80% of my friends are unwed single mothers." Because back in the 90s, Arizona had the highest rate of teenage pregnancies, and all of my friends in public schools were getting knocked up and having kids. So I was just like,
Hmm.
honestly, everyone I know is an unwed mother, so I really don't care. And then once he realized that wasn't gonna like hurt my feelings, he's like, "Well, I know you smoke a lot of pot. Do you know what society thinks of pot smokers?" Again, imagine the Kurt Cobain era.
Right. Right. Yeah. Hmm.
I'm like, I'm like, people think that we're losers and we're drug users. And he's like, "Well, doesn't that bother you?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't." So he kept going and going. I'm not kidding, like for 4 hours,
Mm.
just asking what would like um hurt my feelings. And you know what's funny? After 4 hours, he finally found my ruin, and it was my sister, the
Oh.
key of the order. Because back then,
Mm.
it used to bother me that she and I did not have a relationship of any type. And when I was a
Wow.
kid, I always wanted a brother or a sister. It used to bother me. Now I give a crap less, but
Yeah.
he was about to give up on me after 4 hours. And his very last question, he's like, what do you think about your sister? He's like, do you like your sister? Do you guys have a good relationship? And it was weird. I instantly started tearing up, and he found it. He found my ruin. He knew, and it was just like, bam, like
Mm.
he just for the kill. And it really is like a CIA interrogation.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And he says,
Mm.
sister really loves you. And if you join staff, you'll get to see her every day. He's like, the whole reason I'm here is because your sister cares about you and she wants to see the best for you. She wants to see you do well. She wants to see you be successful, which is untrue. That's not why she sent him to my house. But you know, I I fell for it, blind and sinker. I said, you know
Yeah,
what?
I bet.
Yeah, I joined staff again when I was 19. Again, having to sign another billion-year contract. It's funny. I've signed billion-year contracts twice, and I
How
I
many
know it.
billions? 2 billions years?
Well, what they would tell me is, I remember, I think the second time, yeah, one of them said, "Oh, we're sorry, we're out of the 2-year contracts. Just sign this in the meantime." And so the smaller orgs, they say half-ass. It really is ran in like such a
Wait, okay,
half-ass
they were out of this 2 years, so you had to sign the billion
billion year.
the billion years.
Yeah. And so
Wow,
it
wow.
was just normal. I knew about the billion-year contract, so I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I know to people on the outside that seems so funny, but yeah, both times I joined staff, I had to sign billion-year contracts just to join the public staff.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
so when I was 7 years old, though, they knew. I'm like, you guys, I'm gonna, my mother told them, well, she's gonna be starting second grade uh, in a few months. And they were like, oh, that's okay. And they really just wanted me as a stat for that week. So when I had to,
Mm.
when I was 7 and go back to school, they really didn't care. But I brought in a major stat for them that week. And then when I was 19, God, I think I lasted 9 months. And what's funny is I've never dated anyone in Scientology. But I did. There was a staff member there that I kind of had the hots for. I kind of started seeing him. And honestly, that's another part of the reason why I joined staff. Nothing will make
I've
you
heard
join.
that many times about that, yeah.
Yeah,
About people
nothing.
joining staff because there's hot guys or hot girls, yeah. I've heard that.
I
Mhm.
joined staff, and yeah, we were really, me and this guy became good friends, but his brother was not a Scientologist, and his brother was another huge pot smoker and stoner. And me and his brother toked up one time. And yeah, my boyfriend wrote a knowledge report up on me. I remember he wrote it. He's like, Marisa, I'm sorry, but you're jeopardizing my career as being on staff. He's like, what you're doing right now is highly unethical. And I could honestly lose my position, and I'm gonna have to write up a KR about you. And I remember being like flabbergasted, like, you're kidding me. I'm like,
Did you
how
break
how
up or he just wrote a report on you?
well, he wrote a report on me. I think we
Yeah.
stayed together for maybe another month, but I ended up, as they say, blowing. I
Mhm.
blew for good. I
Blue
blew for good that time. And yeah,
You are
wait,
blown for good.
yeah, blowing for good. Oh my God, some of these names are just absolutely ridiculous.
I
Blown for good. I did. I
I
was told
I
my
usually
second.
say blown for good.
Honestly, I don't know why I thought of that name because I'm like, dude, do you realize how funny that sounds? Like, and that was the peak of all the porn stars like Jenna Jameson and like all that stuff back then. Like they really had a field day with that name, blown for good. But
I'm gonna pop up a couple of things here. Super Pop, thanks for the super chat. You should have asked for a rain check on the 2-year contract. Hugs to you both. That's so funny.
oh, definitely. I definitely know. And Marilyn, if there's a question I can't see because I have my glasses on and
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of blind as a bat, so if I
Okay.
miss
Yeah.
something,
I've got some questions starred. Yeah. And people are asking to do a our little drinking game we have, right? Or our little partake that uh that Doug came up with and Kelly made us a little overlay. So everybody's
yeah.
asking to do a Xenu Marlene.
Oh
So
goodness.
whatever you got, I've got a Rodney cup.
Oh well,
That's my
well,
cup of the day.
I do see this. Oh, I guess I'll have to try. See here, I don't think this is sold anywhere else but outside of here.
Ooh,
I'll have a little sip. Oh, can you guys see
oh, that
it?
looks good.
I'm gonna have to
For
send some.
what is it?
Like,
Peaks.
I don't know how it's pronounced. It's like Xerocole. I think it's Cheracole, but it's like
Oh,
a desert IPA.
oh, I think this is an IPA too. Duncan
It's a
gave it to
very,
me.
oh, can you see it? Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, IPA. Yep. Yeah, I think this is Sierra something, Sierra Nevada. I don't know. But cheers. Cheers to Doug. We miss him. Love you,
Oh
Doug.
gosh. I miss him with all my heart. It really,
Yeah.
not a day goes by, and sometimes I'm like, what would Doug do? Like, and for the most part, I try to stay like happy. I don't want to say happy, but positive about him. Um, because I try to think like, what would he do? What would he do in this situation? And sometimes I laugh because I'm like, oh my God, he would just think this is absolute horse shit, like all the drama going on. But I
Yeah.
do, man. And I know I know I don't show a lot of my emotions publicly, but I let out a very good cry when he passed away. And you know what was really, really bad is sometimes I don't check my voice messages for a couple of weeks. And, because it's usually my daughter's dad, and he'll leave me like 5 messages a day, like, hey, call me back, I'm home. And then 20 minutes, hey, I'm about to hop in the shower, give me a call when you can. Like, I'm just like, stop leaving me messages like that. So that's why I don't check my messages too much. But after that happened to Doug, um, yeah, I was cleaning out my voice messages and it was a message from him. And
Oh,
this happened, it was about, you know, after we found out he passed away, it was about a week after that, and it was a message of his I never heard, and it was like 2 minutes long, and it was so weird hearing him talk like for 2 minutes. And it happened to be, because I was going through a bad time and he was going through a bad time. Both of us were going through like really bad kind of like family time, you know, and he left me a 2-minute long message just telling me his problems, but most of it was kind of consoling me and wishing the best for me. And I
yeah.
saved it,
So I
of
was.
course, but I'm like, man, that was rough. Like, kind of finally, I, realizing he's gone and sort of beginning to move along. And then I get that message from him, and it just set me back like 3 steps backwards again. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh. he is definitely someone that will never be forgotten or missed. And I do know for anyone out here that's watching this, um, I know he liked you a lot, Marilyn. He loved the heck out of you. And
Same with you. He talked about you all the time. He really did, all the time.
and
And he said you're one of his, long-standing friends. You've been friends forever, and he really respected you. He really did.
man, this makes me I have nothing but respect for that man. And
Yeah,
Helicopter, if you're watching this, he
yeah.
really, really
Really
loved
adored her. Mhm,
you because she's newer and younger, and he's like, man, this girl is going to bring so much to this movement. And
mhm,
he's like, she's just like a power punch, and has so she has so many things that are going to move this entire bringing down Scientology. I mean, the future is looking bright, because there are a lot of
mhm.
hard fighters like her and you, and then his
We got
mods
Cricket
like
in here. We got
got
Cricket,
you.
another
I
friend.
don't know what I like your screen name, but I'm like, you know what? I gotta call you Cricket. If
Cricket, yeah.
it was just as a Bolt, I would be using the other name all day long. He really
She calls
loved
me
her.
Maz. I don't know why she calls me Maz, but that's my nickname now. He loved and respected Maz, Marisa, Kelly, all three of you so very much. And you too, Cricket. Yes.
And
Yeah.
what
We
people don't
miss him a
understand
lot.
is, I know every day there are brand new people that are coming along. And I've never seen, I don't think any of us have. I don't think any of us have seen the anti-Scientology movement kind of evolve. I don't know. I guess it's evolving. I should say revolving because there is a bit of a revolution going
Mm,
on.
that
We're
makes sense.
evolving.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many things going on. Um, but for those that are joining, yeah, I consider Doug one of my very good friends, and we both joined the anti-Scientology movement around the same time. I would say, yeah, I started looking for questions around 2006, and I think he was doing it too, but in his own little way. But we both did the, anonymous movement,
Hmm.
and then joined. What people need to understand is there still SPSRS? Is that even still up? I got banned a long time ago. SPSRS,
No, I don't know. I'm not in that.
my first anti-Scientology Facebook forum, and it was the only one, SPSRS. That's where we would conglomerate to, and that's how I met Doug.
Really.
Um, so he and I have these memories of going back to, like, the SPSRS days of 2012, 2013, and even before then. And all of the people that have mistreated us and not helped us, we see that, and I know this is going to kind of coincide into what we are going to be talking about eventually. But
Hmm.
Doug, what a lot of people don't realize, and I always forgot about this, he actually reached OT3.
Hmm.
And the story with this family is, his father was a very high level Scientologist. And even though Doug and I became friends as soon as we joined SPSRS, I was friends with him for like 3 years before he even told me he was a second gen. I really
Really.
thought he was some guy, like, very interested in this cause and very passionate
Hmm.
about it, and that he knew a lot of things about Scientology. And when he told me he was a second gen, I literally was mind blown. I'm like,
Wow.
no, I've known you this whole time, and you're barely telling me that you were born in Scientology. And he's like, yeah, well, I just, didn't think it really was that big of a deal. He was just such a humble, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
he
just,
was.
I respect him for everything that he did. And, for me, even though I don't have a lot of followers, but I think I'm going to be in the tradition that Doug was. And I know he never monetized his channel. And in his honor, I really don't plan on monetizing mine either. And I don't know if I ever will get enough followers to have to worry
Well,
about it.
everybody
But
subscribe to Marisa at Dianetics.
but no, I don't. I mean, and
You
it's
get
like
a
my
ton of views. I mean, I don't know how many subscribers you have, but you get way more views than you have subscribers, that's awesome. It's really, really good. Because everybody
um
wants to hear from you. I mean, I've got you had like 50 people waiting in the chat, and
oh
I scheduled this earlier in the day, and there were tons of people like camping out in the chat waiting to see you. And I tell you, there's at least 10 of these comments that I had starred some of them about you're just no BS, and they love that. Everybody loves that about you. I love that about you. I know that you'll tell me the truth no matter what, and that you've been around the block and you call things, you're just like Doug, very authentic, and you don't give a shred of an F? You don't. So I love that. It's very, very refreshing. So
I
yeah, and that,
appreciate
yeah, I love to hear your input.
I feel the same about you as well. And I think as they say, birds of a flood of a birds of a feather birds of a feather flock together. And I do feel like I gravitate towards people that are altruistic, and you can just sense in their soul and their personalities that they're in this for the right reasons. They're in this because they care, and they're not in this because they want a pat on the head and
Right.
they want Mike Rinder giving them a little doggy bone and saying, good boy. And, you're not like that. Nora's not like that. Liz is not like that. I'm not
Mhm.
like that. Lily's not like that. You know what I mean? And we all
Right.
like together. And I mean, so many more, so many more. Miriam is not like that.
Yeah.
Although, I like to touch with
Yeah.
Miriam. They think she's still in Australia, but Miriam knows that I have her back 100%.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. We
I
all do,
didn't
right,
see,
guys? Yes, we all
yeah,
do.
I mean, and people that know me, I'm one of those people where I'm kind of like a ride or die friend where if I am your friend, man, I am in it like you're my, you know, we're all friends with people. It's like a tangled web, like I know I like a couple of people that certain people don't like. And conversely, certain people are going to like people that I don't like. And that's
Mhm.
just the way that this
Right.
movement goes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here because what I think is refreshing about you is you're not an ex Scientologist. So you're able to ask the questions and bring up the things that ex Scientologists cannot do. Because if I was to try to talk about what you do, oh man, I would instantly get labeled, well, what I already get labeled as a shit disturber and oh,
Oh, I'm
she's
already labeled. Yeah, I got labeled that too. Oh, don't worry, don't worry. But I like to talk about things like, ask you nuances of Scientology that I haven't heard. Like I've heard a lot of the stories, and I've heard of some of the generalities of it, but I started with Doug. We started talking about the hypnosis and the language and all the different things that he was thinking about, like about narcissism and how that really was like bred into you as a Scientologist, and just all the Xenu crazy shit. And he's like, I didn't even know I had a reactive mind until they told me there was something wrong with me. And I was like, wow, that's just like Christianity, because I didn't know I was born a sinner and was going to hell and needed a savior until they told me that there was something wrong with me. So
wow.
I do I feel like at I feel like I belong here, but I also can relate to, thousands of quote never ends. I know we hate that phrase, but people that have never been in. Um, I try to ask questions that maybe two Scientologists wouldn't cover. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you get two Scientologists together on screen and they already know what the other knows. So they're just talking about stuff. And sometimes it turns a little bit into Scientologies. So I'm very simple. I'm like, okay, can you explain this to me? And is it like this? So I just I do find it really fascinating. And I like to hear all different types of stories. And I feel like no one should be left behind. If you know anybody that just feels like they're no, don't feel like they belong in this community, they belong, and send them to me. I want to hear from them.
Well,
Everybody.
no, I'll keep that in mind. And what we should do is have one of these days, like Scientologies. I will speak Scientologies, and then but you have to do the speaking in tongues. It's got to be. I'm just joking. That could be
Oh
like a
God,
drinking game. We could play
definitely
speaking.
be a drinking. Yeah, that would be a drinking game for sure, for sure. Yeah. Oh, can I read a couple of these things? I've got a bunch piling up. People just want to tell you how they feel about you and in a good way and ask you some questions. Is that okay? Okay.
Oh
We got
Lordy.
Lauren Garcia. I can't wait. She was one of the ones that was camped out before the chat. I can't wait. I love Marisa's honesty and have learned so much from her, and not just about Scientology, but about people and life in general. She's so interesting. I love that.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sweet.
I appreciate
Sweet.
that.
Swedish Lena, can't wait for you and Marisa together. I hold space for Marisa and the fact that she has spoken the truth from the start. Yeah, people appreciate that. They really do. Yeah, I love that. Malarkey. Malarkey, I want to hear from Marisa on Mike Render's blog post and why he hid the spy files from Leah and hid hid that he leaked them and gave them to Biff. Oh, BF
Biff,
BFG.
my
Is
name,
that
Biff.
is that what
I
you
have
call
that one, I guess.
it? Blown for good? Is that it? And
No,
as gatekeeper, who's Biff?
do you
Mark?
remember the movie? Yeah. Do you remember in
Okay.
the movie Back to the Future with
Mhm.
Michael J. Fox?
I
You
haven't
have
seen it
to.
in forever. Yeah, I
Okay,
did. I
well,
had to
Biff,
sneak. I had to sneak and watch it because I wasn't allowed to watch movies. Remember?
because you could. Okay, see, I wasn't allowed to watch like scary movies. Oh my God, my mom kept me away from scary movies. But Back to the Future, there's a character named Biff, and he's sort of like this big overgrown dude, and he's like a senior in high school, and honestly,
Okay, I think I remember that character. All right, I forgot his name.
and Biff, he just looks like a Biff. I mean, my brother used to call me Biff, which kind of meant like dumbass or something. So like, my brother was like 12 years older than me, but he always used to flick me on my head and be like, "Okay, Biff." But Biff is like the character on Back to the Future, and he's like a big overgrown dude, and he always used to pick on like the really nice high school kids younger and smaller than him, and kind of like the nerdy high school kids, that didn't want to fight and stuff. So Biff
Mm.
was basically a bully that picked on
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
fight him. So I would have
Gotcha.
been one of the recipients back in grade. That's why I call him Biff, because he looks like him and he kind of acts like him. When we're done with
Yeah,
this
there's
interview,
been some bullying going on in this space, I feel, because some of the survivors, some people who are, really struggling are getting called names and discarded and feel, just shown like treated with contempt and disdain. So that's really sucks. It really, really sucks. And I don't go for that. I don't go for that. And that's why I sit
did
here and I would rather be talking about, puppies and IPAs, and I like to talk about other cults. I like to talk about all the kinds of stuff. But if people want me to shut up, certain people that are bullying the survivors, they need to stop bullying the survivors, and then I'll shut up and I'll talk about other cults. And that's all I
That's
got to
how,
say about that.
no, I
Right?
am the same as you. And I know some people, think that like, oh my God, you're so mean. And you know what? I'm not, I can be mean, but I really am always a protector of like the underdog. And I
Yeah.
hate people that are the underdogs getting picked on by people just because they're more popular or they have more
Yep.
money or they have more social status or prestige. And that happens a lot in this anti-Scientology movement. As far as what I think of Mike Rinder,
Here's the
that's very
question.
and
About his blog post, why he hit the spy. Okay, first about his blog post, I think the spy files is a separate thing, right? What'd you think about his blog post?
the blog post today where he said he's going to leave social media. I'm like, good, good. You should have done that shit 10 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, I'm not kidding. Oh, when he says he should have left 10 years, or when he says he's going to leave social media, I'm like, bye. Thank you. Thank you for leaving. That's the best news I've heard in a very long time. Um, but what he's done to Miriam and other people, he's not a good person. He's really not. And I'm so tired of people giving this thing of like, oh, well, he's done this and that. And I would say the people, Aaron, for as much slack as Aaron gets, and you need to take away from Aaron's personal life, you know what? Aaron's relationships and his marriage life, that has nothing to do with any of us.
Right.
That's his personal business.
Agreed. Hmm.
So Aaron, the person that's involved with all of this, I know for a fact that what he's saying is true because I've been around long enough to witness it. And, we are not all yes men of Aaron. I want to get that established.
Definitely not.
Uh, no, we're not. And you can ask Aaron. Oh my God, we argue with all the freaking time, like second gens, and he knows this. Um, we if there's something we don't agree with him on, we will get into arguments with him. Sometimes he gets mad or we get mad and we unfriend each other, but then we will friend each other again.
Yeah.
Um, and oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh
What
no, I
were
was
you
just
gonna?
gonna say Liz Gale said that you all boss him around. I said, yeah, that's true. As far as Aaron goes.
Oh goodness,
Yeah.
it's a house, Liz.
Joking. Back of
Oh,
Beyond says, wait, uh, Mike has done a lot. I mean, just ask him. Yeah, they'll tell you. Mike will tell you how
well,
much he's done. Yeah.
yes, exactly. This is about, and I'm gonna start talking about this more because for as much as people think I am a shit disturber and I'm always being mean, you guys have heard the story of my nephew passing away, blah blah blah. Mike Rinder was the head of OSA when my nephew passed away. And the news media came to my home. I still have the news articles saved from the Arizona Republic, and they were trying to make a huge news story about my nephew's death. And I had to deal with OSA directly. There is no OSA in Arizona. Um, last time I checked, the closest OSA that there is available is in Los Angeles. And Chris Shelton, around the time that he was, coming out, as he has recently said, he was celebrating his 10-year coming out of Scientology anniversary. Um, OSA flew to my house and spoke to me directly. Like I had to deal with them one on one. I don't know how many people, there's probably a lot of people that can say that, especially people in COR that have dealt with OSA, but me as a public Scientologist, yeah, I had to deal with OSA, three of them, giving me direct orders to not speak to the news media. And they told me that if I did speak to the news media and tell them that my sister was the executive director of Scientology, I would be solely responsible for collapsing the Scientology, and I would also be responsible for ruining the future of mankind. So essentially, I would be responsible for destroying humanity as we know it.
For
And
what's that now?
that,
For talking to the press?
yes, for talking, OSA told me that if I talked to the local press and if I told them that my sister was leading the Phoenix org, or basically, if I told them that my sister was a Scientologist, yes,
Oh, right. Mhm.
because she's the executive director of, she was leading
That's
the whole
ludicrous.
church, and she wasn't home, and one of her children died. Mike Render was the head of OSA when that happened back in 2001, and honestly, that thought never even crossed my mind. I always used to blame it on my sister, which I still do. As you know, so, psychology is huge on blaming things on yourself.
Yep.
Everything is your fault, you know? And so I did. I blamed it on my sister, which to this day, it is partially her fault. She was a negligent mother. She left her children home alone, but it was upon the order.
Another instance. Sorry. I had to laugh. I had to laugh at that one.
I can't see. Does it
Oh,
say?
it said, can you see the screen,
Oh,
Nicole?
wait.
Oh, it says
Chris.
Chris Shelton, another insincere F
Oh, yeah,
A A. Yeah.
Nicole. Be a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you can see. I'm sorry for all of you guys that have missed. Nicole, you rock, girl. Um, but so yeah, I had to speak to OSA directly and they gave me instruct. You know what is messed up is they didn't even say like my condolences on the loss of your
Yeah.
nephew. My nephew was 9 years old. It was December 16th. We had presents under the tree for him to unwrap. And I remember him coming to my house like 2 days before Christmas. And he was, or not 2 days before Christmas, 2 days before his untimely death, like December 14th. He would come over very happy, like, oh, super, super happy to unwrap his Christmas presents. And I cannot describe the feeling of, yeah, seeing a Christmas tree with presents for a dead child. It was very weird, very strange. And for Osa to just sit there and not even say like we're sorry, but for them to just say, hey, don't say that your sister's a Scientologist, whatever you do, that's all they cared about.
So
Um,
sick. So
and
sick.
I'm not crying about it now because people need to understand it's been 20 years since this happened. I'm still very sad. Of course, I get a feeling of sadness about it.
Yeah.
But it's been 20 years. So all of my grieving and mourning, like I've had 20 years to do that. What I feel now, I do still feel a lot of anger.
Mhm.
I've been willing to even use my nephew as an example lately. It's like, hey, I'm not going to get mad at anyone. I'm not going to tell on anyone. But I use my nephew as an education tool for the public. To those of you that were in charge, of ordering my sister to stay on post and leave children behind. And for those of you that ordered OSA to my house and ordered, said that my nephew and niece are not the greatest good for the greatest cause, why don't you guys step up and explain it to the public and at least do something? You know how Serge talks about accountability?
Yeah. Yeah.
We need that accountability.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's what you did. At least tell people and make it an educational experience because a
Right.
lot of people in the public don't know how Scientology works. And
Yeah.
say I don't know what happened. I remember going to the funeral, and it was a Scientology funeral. That the father was a diehard Scientologist, along with my half sister. The dad side of the family, they had a lot of money. They would donate all the time. They donated and paid for the funeral. Um, but it was strange. I remember writing a poem, and OSA had to proofread my poem, and they told,
Really?
yeah, they proofread my poem, and I still have a copy of my poem. As a matter
Oh,
of
so was
fact,
that the funeral?
yeah, I went to the funeral, um, and it was a previously closed casket, but I wrote a poem, and it got to that point where people, would anybody like to say some final words about Tyler? So all of his little friends walked up, there were five of them, and his mother was
Mm,
not able.
mm,
Me, I think three other people joined up, and yeah, that was it. And yeah, OSA had to proofread it, and they straight up told me, we just want to make sure you're not writing anything about David Miscavige or L. Ron Hubbard.
at a funeral?
Yeah,
Oh my God, that's so sick.
I think it's because
I'm
they
so
knew.
sorry.
Oh, girl, it's okay. Don't be sorry. And I know you've been through a lot. You know yourself. You understand how it goes, though. Just the weird depravity of being raised in a cult and how
Yeah.
things can go
Yeah.
situations like this.
It's just they lack compassion, understanding, like everything is like you just basically a shell because you're just, I don't know what they call it in a meat body. Like we were just a vessel, an empty vessel. In Heaven's Gate, the space suicide cult, they
Yeah,
were a vehicle. They were a vehicle, you know. So that's what they reduce you to. So you don't have thought for yourself. It's hard to have attachment to your family. And, once I don't know, I feel like because I never felt like I had a family, then I finally had my own children. I really loved them. I really wanted to be a mom and I was wanted to protect them. And then that was the thing that they saved me. They rescued me. But I'm just seeing that with like even with the old guard from my background, some of the from either from my cult or from that Pentecostal thing, they just don't get it. They lack, I guess it would be like emotional intelligence. Like people, can be book smart. And I'm even seeing this in this space is that there's just a lack of understanding of what somebody needs. Like I feel like if somebody like Mike Render, I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to say this. And when I say I'm just going to say this, I'm usually afraid to say it, but I fucking say it anyways, right? Even if he didn't know that if he didn't give the order, he didn't know anything about the case with your, nephew, with Miriam's situation, with all of the countless, with Liz Ferris, who was also beaten, beyond measure by her own mother and moved to Los Angeles and just, with her mother who pretty much got a promotion. Everything got covered up, right? Even if he didn't know, if he could just say, hey, have a conversation and say, listen, I honestly look you in the eye and say, I honestly don't know, but I'm so sorry that happened to you. And yeah, that was really, really evil and really mean it. and maybe try to find out who does know and maybe offer some kind of understanding. I mean, there we've got three couples, six people who are running a charity who have no charity in their heart. They're being cold and they're just calling people fleas and spokes holes and bullshit. It's just inexcusable. It's inexcusable. So that's what I think about that.
I
You know,
agree. Actually, I guess I would say you led the introduction to the last question. If someone was like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "You." I was kind of trying to play it like, I don't know. I don't want to say nice, but I'm like, well, but
leave it to me.
yeah, but what people need to understand too about Mike. I always want to say Rinder. I've been calling him Mike Rinder like for so many years. You guys. Oh, I've just probably something. Sorry. I think it might be the way I talk. I don't know, but Mike Rinder
I
always
love
used
how
to
you
say,
talk. I'm here
Mike.
for it all. Whenever I get a notification that Dianne Etex uploaded another video, I'm like,
I'm like
yeah.
Mike Rinder, but it's like Rinder.
Yeah.
I just have like a weird. I don't know. I guess call it L. Ron Hubbard, like L. Ron Hubbard's reading and comprehension skills 101. No, just
Hey,
joking.
Poe on the go. Oh, you'll get a straight answer from Marilyn. Believe me. Sorry, Poe. Yeah, he knows that. Uh, Good to see you.
Oh, hey Poe, I, you're a nice guy, and you do. I was gonna tell you, I haven't talked to you before, but yeah, you gotta watch out because there's kind of a lot of shady, kind of weird people out there. You gotta be careful for if you haven't noticed that already. I know you're like a retired police officer, but you know, don't get sucked up in some of the stuff that's going on, honestly. And no more Mark Fisher interviews. Anyways, anyways, we'll move on. Um, so I'm sorry,
You
no more Mark.
said you said it. Everybody's been dancing around this for months. I haven't not said I haven't not said that.
Hey, but no, things need to be said. Like so, oh my God, sometimes like things like honestly need to be said. And you know what? This is what I want to ask some people because I get people that like insult me on my channel. I would say lately because of the like everything that's going on. People need to ask themselves, like, what does the fight against Scientology mean to them? Like, what does it really
Mhm,
mean? Does it mean that you're fighting for, all of these grown-ups that have been in for decades? Are you fighting for their right to continue auditing in the privacy of their home without David Miscavige messing with them? Is that your fight? Because lately, a lot of the comments I've been getting that like just chastising Miriam, and I've
mhm,
been getting comments saying, um, why doesn't Aaron step forward, and why doesn't Aaron confess his crimes of what was going on? And I'm reading this, and I'm like, do you guys realize how old Aaron was when some of this was going on?
right,
Like
yeah.
a kid and
And
a
he wasn't at the
teenage.
gold base or yeah, he didn't
Like,
know any of that
okay,
stuff.
Mike Rinder was 25 years old when I was born. And Miriam and Aaron are younger than me by, I would say, at least 3 to 5 years older or younger than me, if not more, which
Mhm,
means Rinder was like 50, like right now, I don't know how old he is right now, but you get my point. Like, these people were children and teenagers. Rinder was a grown ass man. He knew what he was doing. And a lot of the messages I'm getting, people are essentially asking for Aaron and Marianne to confess to what they were doing when they were teenagers.
mhm.
They're like already like 40 plus. To me, that's just kind of gross, you know? Like I just think that that's um I don't know. I think some people really need to kind of study like what's going on and a lot of what's happening in this whole movement. I'm gonna take my earrings off really quick,
Laura
but
Font wants to know, what did I miss with Mark Fisher?
oh goodness. Do we have to go there
No, we
again?
don't have to. We don't have to.
Okay, you can. I was being sarcastic. I'm like,
We don't
oh
have
no.
to. I just somebody asked a question.
No,
Nico,
you
we'll
do it.
we'll let the
Like
chat do it. We'll let the chat do it.
you you explain.
Nico
Um,
says Thailand and blog. Okay.
this is on you, Mary. I'm just messing with you.
You mentioned you mentioned his name.
Oh,
I'm just yeah.
don't be playing that, girl. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
You,
I'm
so,
gonna let it I'm gonna let it go there. Maybe ask him. Maybe ask
but
him.
while this chat is going with people saying this stuff, I do want to say, you know, this is not really I would say the older people that have been dominating this whole movement, they really are not a group of nice people. If you look at their background and what's been going on, and Aaron knows this. And what I want to say is it's not like, wow, all of a sudden we're now like yes men for Aaron because of what happened to him. No, what happened, like I said earlier, a lot of us have been talking shit about like Mike Rinder and all this stuff for years. Many of us. This has been going on for many, many years. Aaron just happened to kind of experience what happened. Now Aaron is mad, but a lot of us, I'm going to tell you straight up, when Leah Remini first came out with Aftermath, it was not a global wide in the anti-Scientology movement. It was not a movement of like, oh yay, peaches and cream and lovey-dovey stuff. I would say like 45% of us or so, we were very perplexed why she chose Mike Rinder. We were like, why would she choose and I even to this day still wonder why she chose Mike Rinder. I don't understand. I really don't. Um the way that he's communicating to people lately, like Rabbit, Miriam, what you are seeing is a classic Scientologist. This is what Scientology breeds is what Mike Rinder's behavior is lately. This is the end result. It breeds narcissism,
Yeah. That's what Doug
heartlessness,
always said. Yeah.
yeah, carelessness. And you know what I find funny reading stuff, he says things like how he called everyone keyboard warriors, which
He
somebody
finally
said that,
apologized after 2.5 months. I
yeah,
mean,
some
better late than
who
never, but still.
who was
Yeah.
the first person to say keyboard warriors? I forget. It was
Well, it
like
was Mike is the
somebody
first one I've heard.
okay, but there was someone before him and he copied somebody, it was a younger person. He copied someone saying keyboard warriors. And this is another thing I wanted to say. I would say people like Mark, the Hadleys, Chris Shelton, Aaron and Jeff, you are dealing with people that are not used to having to communicate with the mainstream spectrum of society. They
That's a
are
good way to
used
put it. Yeah.
they're used to dealing with the anti-Scientology movement as it once was before Leah Remini, and then even when Leah Remini first began, we did get this like huge influx of several hundred people. Right now, I would say it's an influx of, oh my gosh, a couple, like 20,000 new people, all together, like tens of thousands of people watching this right now. If you take a look at it. And yeah, Karen, Jeff, Shelton, they're not used to dealing with this because all of these people are, the big W word that L. Ron Hubbard loved using.
Mhm.
They're Scientologists, and then, the W word, which basically means dipshit, like normal, everyday dipshit citizens. That's what the W word means. Um, so Mike Render and them, they're used to dealing with in their mind what they think are like W word type people, or people worshiping them and kissing their ass. They're not used to this.
Yep.
They open up a huge
Mm.
can of worms. All of these tens of thousands of people, they're very street smart, like streets,
Mm.
for instance.
Yeah.
All the people in LA streets, these are people
Yep.
that look at Jeff, Karen, Chris Shelton, the Headleys, and they look at them like streets look
Well,
at people like that, like, I'm not doing what you dorks say.
well, and they put on airs. That's how, and I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this because I always say that before I say something that I'm not gonna regret it because I'm saying it. But I do feel that way. Aaron is really the only one out of the main players that were kind of in charge. Like, this is SPTV. This is how it's gonna go. And we're in charge. We're kind of in the storytelling phase. Um, he was always different because like he did the news and he is real and he's like funny and not in a like he's very approachable. Like when I started actually talking to him a little bit, even on the phone during the ZDT thing, he called me several times. He is the same person on the phone and I've never met him in person, but on video, like backstage and StreamYard, he's the same person. And with all his faults, I feel like I can trust him. He's honest. If nothing else, he's honest and he never tells anybody what he's never told me what to do, you know? I never feel
Mm.
like what would Aaron do? Oh, what would he think? But even though I don't know Mike, Mark, and Claire, I have thought that many times. What would they think? What would they? Oh my God. Like I didn't want to piss them off. And I feel like, now I'm seeing when people start to buck against the system and the controlled narrative and the controlled opposition, as Doug called it. Now all of a sudden they're scattering around. They're trying to handle us on the phone. They're in Discord, the SPTV Discord. They're on the community pages, not naming names at first until last night. They finally went against, or yesterday, Mike went against his code of ethics put forth by the Aftermath Foundation and started naming names, named Mike Brown's names. Now, shouldn't he step down because that's what Aaron supposedly got kicked off for, is criticizing another ex-Scientologist that speaks out against Scientology. So hypocrite.
Wow, that's interesting. See, I have not seen the Discord, like how you keep track of the Discord stuff.
Well, I actually deleted it, but people send me screenshots. I can't anymore. I won't even go in there. It's just so icky. It's so gross. And I don't even want to see the screenshots. I don't even want to know what they're saying about me. I don't care anymore. Really don't. But they're
You've
nasty.
gotten
They're really
to
nasty.
a point where you don't care. And this is what I always tell everyone. We are all at different stages of this. For instance, me, I have not done anything in Scientology in 22 years. That's a long time. I mean, the last time I did something, I think I was like 20 years old.
Mhm.
20, no, 22. So yeah, it's been 22 years since my last activity in Scientology. Um, in that whole time, I've had time to just hang out with my friends in the real world, non Scientology friends, but do things in, the normal world or whatever. I've had 22 years of doing that. Whereas people that have recently left Scientology and say they only have 5 years, it might be a little bit different, but everyone's story is different. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
was saying, like,
Mm-hmm.
my story was I had one step in Scientology, or I had one foot in Scientology and one foot in the normal world because of how it was being raised. Some people are not that lucky and they have both feet in Scientology, like hardcore.
Mm,
Then there's people like Chris Shelton, where, I don't think he experienced his first Scientology course till he was 18. That's what he has
really?
said many times. So his brain got to develop, and he got to process a lot of stuff. When you do Scientology at like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, even I would say before 18, it really messes with your mind. And there
Yeah,
are some
I bet.
things that happen to me that I'm sure I will never regain again. With the amount of
Mm,
auditing that I've had at such a young age, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to feel certain emotions that normal people will be able to have. I would say love is one of those. And just being quite honest, um, like love, compassion. I feel compassion, but I can tell I am missing a chip in. I'm missing a sensitivity chip, and I know it's from Scientology. And I know when I get into arguments with people and I'm very mean, when people don't like arguing with me because I I'm very mean. I am not, and I'm not bragging about it, but I can tell, like, it's at a level where it's sometimes
but it's in
even.
a sort of a funny, joking way, though. You know, like
I try to
what
make
your videos are in like a
I make
funny,
it
joking
funny,
way.
but I make it in I try, because I don't hate people, but when
Mhm.
people are mean to me, they attack me, yes, I do tend to take it to that level where I notice people attack me and like they leave and they never come back because they're like, wow, I don't want to mess with that chick. I blame that on, you know, if you take someone from the time they're like an 8-year-old child and you teach them to, that you basically sit them in front of strangers and adults and they have to practice drills for hours a day on how to insult people and make them feel like
Mhm.
crap themselves,
Yeah.
which is something I hated doing. I remember I used to be an extremely introverted child. I hated it. I was very shy. I was very introverted, and having to, an adult just sit you across from someone and order you to bull bait someone was actually very terrifying for me.
I
It was
bet.
very
Yeah.
and terrifying, but I did that, and I could tell it just developed this thing in me where, man, I could just like blurt out insults like nothing. And it's a bad, I don't like that about myself. I really don't. I do it if I have to, but
I hear
it's a
you.
very
Yeah. Mhm.
ugly part of I learned from Scientology. Was this that? Oh, I thought someone was asking me a
Oh,
question.
I got some questions. Got another super chat. Let's see. Super Pop, Super Chat. I see you both and appreciate you. I watch all of Marisa's streams and appreciate her insight. Yep, I'm right there with it. Thank you, Super Pup, for the super chat. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much. I
We all
appreciate all the.
appreciate, yeah, we appreciate your insight, Marisa, definitely. Yeah. Oh, Mitch
Well,
Brisker popped in. I don't know if he's still here. He said,
uh-oh.
here to support two
Troublemaker.
strong women. Nice to see you guys together, two very fascinating individuals. Yes, Mitch
Thank
and
you.
I have a very interesting friendship.
I call him Minch. Minch Brinsker.
Mitch,
Minch
yes,
Brinsker. Hi,
he's
Minch.
behaving himself tonight, and so am I. We're good now.
Thank
Uh,
you, Minch.
yes, it's funny.
Oh,
SPTV,
goodness.
I love.
Sorry.
This is Barb. Let's see her tattoo. SPTV tattoo. It's a real
Oh, goodness.
tattoo. It's a real tattoo. Um, Barb's bullshit
My
meter set at 0. Yes.
awesome. That looks like the MTV logo.
Yeah, she got the tattoo because you know the SBTV is like fashioned after MTV, but she got
Yeah,
the
true.
a real tattoo. She's badass. She's one of my
Hey,
mods. She's very cool.
that is
Yeah.
awesome. What's her name, just so I know in case if I ever see her, if she posts
Yeah,
your mod.
SBTV tattoo
Oh,
warrior.
that's what
Yeah.
okay, okay. So if I
Yeah.
see her, I'll be like, "Hey, girl."
Yeah, if it says tattoo, you know it. Yeah. Amy SP, hello. Do we know if Marisa's going live? I was gonna ask you because we talked about it last week, but I looked on your thing. I saw that you haven't been live yet. But once you get your set up with your computer and stuff, we can probably do a live stream to your channel. We can simul stream.
You know what? We could, but you know
Yeah.
what? Okay, I'm kind of funny, like, okay, like Kelly Copter, and if she's seen this, like, I don't Kelly doesn't have YouTube, right? I
Yes,
mean,
she
not
does.
YouTube, TikTok.
Stream it. What?
Is this Kelly Copter? She doesn't have TikTok, right? I just had a question
I
because
don't
I
know.
was trying.
I don't. I
Okay,
think she might. I think she does. I think
does
she has
she? Okay,
TikTok. Yep.
all right. I was gonna try to compare it to the reason okay, like as far as my lives, like I remember YouTube was asking me, like, show me your ID and show me this and show me that. And initially, to tell you guys the background story of my YouTube channel, and Marilyn, you might know this, but it actually started because of my fight with you know who,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
our favorite person whose name starts with Z. Um,
Her favorite pet troll. Yes.
I started my YouTube channel to just, you know, kind of get him out of the way and do things with, basically getting a little YouTube battle with him. So I wasn't planning on having a long-term YouTube channel, and they
Mhm.
YouTube used to ask me questions like, "Let's see your ID and let's do this to verify you." And I kind of think if you don't verify yourself and like how I have it now, I don't think that they can delete my videos and things uh unless if I'm verified. I've never had like a video removed yet. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
if you're monetized, yeah, it's more strict because like the algorithm will pick things up and yeah, the ad revenue won't happen. But yeah, generally, I mean, if you click not for kids, if you're, swearing a ton like within the first 4 minutes, they might ding you. But it's mostly having to do with monetization. But we could try it next time. I just have you go in my StreamYard. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, we'll definitely try it. Oh,
okay.
I got
Yeah,
a
I would
couple.
like part of me, like, I don't know if I want to be monetized. I kind of want to keep the tradition that Doug had for me
Yeah, that was
personally.
great.
I sort of want to just keep, for myself, like I don't want to be monetized in Doug's spirit. I really don't.
I love
But if
that.
I
Yeah.
can, like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really I make basically enough to kinda keep the channel going and a little tiny bit extra, but not much. But that's okay. I love doing it and I'm able to do it. So, yeah, why not,
but no,
right?
you are different. Like you, I don't care. Like people that monetize themselves and that can make money. And this is what like people, and I do agree with Aaron. I think he was saying this earlier. People need to get over this idea of like, oh my God, he's making money off of YouTube. You know what? That's the world we live in, you guys.
Mhm.
We live in a world where people are making money off of YouTube, whether it's Etsy, YouTube, um, Instagram, Facebook. That is the future of people making money. And just like how I always talk about how I make my bath bombs sometimes. Sometimes I make my bath bombs off of
Right.
the internet.
Yeah,
And if
I
people want
crochet. Yeah, why not? I mean, I feel like you put your time in, right?
but if
And
people want
nothing wrong
to
with getting paid.
off of talking about Scientology or talking about cults, I don't care. Like people need to move beyond that as like it's an insult. I don't care. Like Maryland, if you make money, Poe makes money, I'm like, man, rock on. Make like we live in very hard economic times, and if
Yeah.
anyone can make money by whatever means necessary, like exposing how bad Scientology is, that's fine with me.
Yeah, and I don't it's totally secondary. It's like it allows me to be able to do this because I don't wanna be like, asking my husband or we got another, gig to try to pay for a YouTube channel, you know what I mean? So, yeah, basically that's it, not
I'm
trying to
just
get
one of the
rich.
people and like naturally, and this is another thing. L. Ron Hubbard had this huge thing about happiness. And I know this may sound weird, but I don't know if you've heard the concept of haviness. Have you?
Having this?
Happiness is basically materialism in
Mhm.
Scientology, and L. Ron Hubbard encouraged materialism to the fullest.
Really? Really?
Encouraged it's called having haviness.
Except
And
he took all everybody's money, and that's weird. He had a lot of
no,
stuff, right?
and I do. I have an aversion. I know for me, it's psychological and maybe something that I have to get over. Um, but growing up, I was constantly insulted. I would say primarily by my father. My father is extremely money motivated, and uh, my father is the one that's the clear in Scientology, and
Mhm.
Scientology has messed with my father to this very day because he's the money maker. Even though my mother is declared and so forth, the Church of Scientology has never contacted my father one time. Um, but growing up, my dad always used to tell me, like, "Hey, Marisa, you need to get your happiness up
Hmm.
constantly." I think it's just an aversion I have because I'm not a materialistic person. I mean, honestly, I could go live in the middle of the desert or not, I don't want to say the desert because man, it gets hot out here, but I could probably go live in the middle of a forest, plop a blanket down, have food and just live outside. I would totally be cool with that. And
Mhm.
my dad constantly like, God, girl, when are you gonna get your happiness up? When are you gonna want to make a lot of money? And so it's something personal I think I have
Mhm.
with psychology and what they instill on people.
Right.
It's like happiness. Ask the next time you interview like Liz or whoever,
Mhm.
ask them about happiness.
Happiness. Yeah, we've
I
talked about,
like
like, the exchange thing, like, even as a little kid, like, the LRH, like, exchange where you have to, like, you know, give your parent like, you basically have to justify your existence by, like, giving back and, it's like a almost like a, yeah, like a transaction type thing. Weird.
no,
It's
it's
awful.
true. Warren Hubbard was an extremely materialistic,
Mm,
money hungry, very greedy individual. Even though
mm,
he tries to say he's the reincarnation of Buddha, what is it,
mhm.
Siddhartha Gautama? I think that was Buddha's real name. L. Ron Hubbard, shit, he built a cult based upon money, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's how, like, a lot of cult leaders do. Like Marlene, my cult leader, was always dressed to the nines, and like very materialistic. But the rest of us had to basically take a vow of poverty. You know, we were like practically living in a commune. It was a commune. So I grew up in foster care on welfare. I was always used to kind of going without, and you couldn't have anything for yourself. You couldn't really have any preferences. And then, now it's like, I'm still not materialistic, but it's taken a while. Like with you, it's like it's taken a while to realize that I'm, worthy, that I'm worth it, that it's okay, to have a little bit and to not always have to give it away. But yeah, I mean, I do like to be generous. I like to give things. And, honestly, I was a little bit hurt by Mark and Claire and Mike because a lot of people gave a lot, not just the Aftermath Foundation, but their personal channels, and they kind of acted like we were dirt, like keyboard warriors, go away, please. It's just terrible. It's awful.
Well, it is true, and I've seen several people say this, you could take how did that saying go? You could take the person out of Scientology, but you
Right.
can't take Scientology out of the person. And I would say with all of those aforementioned people, that's what I have noticed from them. And I was going to
Yeah.
say, I remember back in 2006 and 2007, um, before there was like Facebook and any of this stuff, and it was all like MySpace. I remember, or not, yeah, it was all MySpace. I remember watching Mark and Claire Headley they were very active on MySpace.
Mm.
And those days, and sir, I think Mike Rinder says he left in '07, right? My mother was
Yeah.
declared in
Mhm.
2006, and I do not,
2006, you said?
yes, yep, my
Okay.
mom was
Yep.
declared in 2006. Mark and Claire and my mother and my I don't know about Mike, but Mark and Claire, oh my God, they were on MySpace non-stop. That was their big thing back in '06, '07.
Mhm.
My mother too. And what I think is funny is how Mark Headley kind of describes himself as like the Harriet Tubman of the ex-Scientology movement. Like he built this underground railroad for Scientologists to escape when that is like not farther from the truth. I know he said in his quote that he has helped hundreds of Scientologists
Yeah.
escape. I'm like, hundreds? No. Like he may have helped a few dozen people who were declared like my mother. He may have helped people like my mother who were kicked out of the Church of Scientology and help them escape into the free zone and independent Scientology movement. I do
Oh,
think
yeah.
he has helped
Mhm.
that, but he has not helped hundreds of people wanting to leave Scientology, period. And when he said that, I'm like, dude, you are like lying out your ass. And you could probably go on Facebook. I mean, MySpace to this day, I haven't looked on my channel in a very long time.
It
And
still
and
exists?
yeah, oh, sure. If you look up Mark Hadley MySpace, you could probably find it right now. I mean, you can find anyone's MySpace right now. Um, and you'll see all of his old stuff. And I don't see, you'll just see stories. You'll see story time. And, going back into those days, David Love was
I
also
just love how
big.
you say story time. It's so funny. That
That is
that
so
video you did about the
crazy.
mother goose, oh my god, I was dying.
Marilyn, if you look on their channel, and I'm not joking, look on their channel, and like even right now, they have all this stuff. It's like story number 30, third story number. I'm like, dude, it's fucking story time. Like, how many times are you guys gonna tell like stories? And I remember like I've been hearing those stories since 2006. Their escape story. Yes, they
Yeah.
escaped.
They think they
They
just told it again last week. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
You know
And,
what?
the where's Shelly? Does anybody know where Shelly is? Anybody know where Shelly is? Oh, Blow Drill? Do you happen to know where Shelly is? We're looking for Shelly. I've
Hello?
watched, we're on our, episode number
What did he
36.
say?
We
Oh, I
still
missed
haven't
that. What
found
did he say?
oh,
Oh,
something about MySpace, but I just popped him up because, I think he might know where
he
Shelly
always
is.
corrects me. Blow drill, I'm gonna kick your butt. No, I'm just joking. So what did he say?
MySpace came out in '03 and Facebook came out in '04. Really?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, so yeah, the Headleys, I remember in '06, they were on MySpace, and I joined Facebook in '07. But if you look at, I mean, if you have anybody out there
I'm
right now,
sorry.
type in MySpace, Mark and Claire Headley. I don't know if they're listening to this and if they're going to delete it. Blow Drill knows this though, right?
Yeah,
Blow
she's up
Drill,
at
when I told the truth.
EST.
Blow Drill, damn you. No, just joking.
He knows blow drill. Dylan
What
knows
a
where
funny
Jelly is.
name. He knows. Everybody's probably like, who the hell's Blow Drill? There's
She's
Blown for Good. Oh my God, this is funny. Um, but yeah, Blow Drill, you know what I'm saying is true, dude. Not
Facebook
saying
killed MySpace in '07, poet says. Yeah.
oh, what
So
did it
let me
say?
oh, he said Facebook killed MySpace in '07.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
guys
That's
look
the
it
year I
up.
escaped the cult and I got to have I think
I can
2009.
still oh, I can still find my MySpace page though. You guys, like if I look up MySpace, it's all music though. It's really strange.
Yeah, wasn't it
Like
like mostly for musicians or something? That's what I heard. A lot of musicians hung on
mhm.
to it.
And I remember because like Anonymous first started their like protests and everything. And my sister was married to oh my God. Okay, this is really another thing. I wish my sister was on like sorry, I had to stand up. I wish my sister was on social media, my half sister. She's been married 4 times, but you know what's really weird? I haven't even gotten
Really?
into the other part. My nephew was, the house fire, but
Yeah.
she married her second and third husbands are Scientologists. And she married her third husband. His name is Frank Spano. I don't mind saying his name. It's Spano.
Mhm.
And this was after my nephew passed away. So about like 2 years later, she married another one, another Scientologist. But my niece was when this went on, she was like 14 at the time. And if you want to talk about like SA stuff, and this is what gets, oh my God, I wish my nephew and my niece would come on. They don't care if I talk about their stuff because
Mm.
they already told me and
Yeah.
they know like their aunt. I'm really their only aunt that like has witnessed all of this and that knows like what happened, right? But
Mhm.
um oh God, this looks weird. Can you see me? This
Yeah.
is that weird. Oh,
Can you
okay.
see me?
Yeah. But I'm trying this new thing and it's just acting so strange. But my
Your sound
niece
is
when
really good.
is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
well that
think. It's a good mic.
the picture is like looking very strange. Um,
It's
but
alright.
you hear about SA and how in Scientology you're not allowed to call law enforcement.
Yep.
Um, I do know that is true. Knock on wood, I have never experienced like any SA like which I know is a rarity because most girls and women do. Um, my niece though, and my sister's third husband, who was I think he was an OT1 in LA. Um, my niece, when she was 14, she told me and my mother, we had this family talk, but basically she told us that her stepfather, the OT Spano, was taking pictures of her when she was asleep. So she would be like knocked out, dead asleep in bed. And he would use his cell phone. And I don't want to get into like too much detail, but he would like just lift up, basically he was taking naked pictures of her
Oh,
while in her, and she didn't know about it. Sort of like Bill Cosby level stuff.
yeah.
And she's 14, as most nosy 14-year-olds are. She was looking in his phone one day and she was just like, wow, why is my stepdad, why does he have all these weird pictures of me? You know? She was totally spooked out, and she told her mother,
Mhm.
uh, she told me because she knows how I am, and I will like get extremely mad.
Mhm.
And she told my mom, and what makes me so mad is like my mom is so inundated with Scientology stuff. Um, can you still see me like
Yeah.
straight? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm trying to look here. It's so weird. But she told my mother, and miraculously, my sister actually divorced her husband. Her at the time, she filed for divorce the next day. I couldn't believe because that's not like her to do something like
Well,
that.
yeah.
I was so mad. I actually had the phone and I was getting ready to call the police. And my niece's biological father, who is also a Scientologist, I called him and I was just livid. Oh my God. Both of them, my nieces, okay, my sister, the biological father, and my mother, who were all Scientologists at the time, had an emergency meeting with me. This is why I'm labeled as an anti-Scientologist and not an SP,
Mm.
because it's like I grew up in Scientology and they used my parents to get money out of them so that I could do like courses and stuff. But they can't really label me an SP because I never really considered myself like a Scientologist,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Mhm.
So they just looked at me as like this sister is an anti-Scientologist, and um I will never forget though that my mother, and this is what Scientology does to the brains of, I would say, elderly people. My mom called the stepdad that molested my niece, and she was like, Frank, I just want to get in calm with you. I remember hearing her calling him, and
So no
then
one reported him. No one reported him.
um, not that I know of, and I got so mad at my mom. I'm like, Mom, you want to get in calm with the guy that just molested your granddaughter? I'm like, I'm not understanding. Like, why?
What
What is
does that mean besides communication? Like in calm meaning what? How deep is this calm communication?
calm? It just means
Just means to talk
communication.
to somebody? So she's gonna
Yeah,
talk to she wants to
she
talk
wants
to him.
to, she wants to talk to him because I don't know if she was wanting to understand my mom. I love her to death, and I don't know if she's like listening to this, but she's a little bit warped from spending 30 years in Scientology. She's 75 years old, and you will find, if you haven't already, and if you've seen from this community, elderly people in Scientology, they are literally like losing their minds. They really are, and it's sad. It's sad to see. It's sad to see them going through stuff like dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever, and they don't even know what the hell they're going through themselves. It's
Mm.
really horrible. But um my nephew, or I mean my niece's dad, the biological dad, he called me, and they had an emergency meeting with me, and they ordered me not to call the police. They're like, please don't call the police. We are handling this. And I'm like, what do you mean you're handling it? And my niece's dad was like, just what I said, it's being handled. And I was like, okay, his name was Scott. He has since passed away. He died about 2 years ago.
The stepfather that did this, that took the pictures?
No, the biological father. I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
that
I don't
this other
remember
guy's
his.
still around.
I think so. Yeah, he's in LA somewhere. I think Frank Spano, to all you guys who live in LA.
His name's
Um,
Frank Spano?
yeah,
Okay.
Spano is a Scientologist, and yeah, he was taking pictures of my niece, which is like
That's illegal. That's
that's like the worst.
major crime. Yeah, that's a crime.
I mean, when somebody is sleeping, like a teenager, to lift their clothes up and do put them in compromising positions while they're sleeping and take pictures of them, that's really that's horrible, you know. But my niece knew I was gonna just flip a fuse, you know.
Why do I know that name? It's not related to um the cadet, the girl that wrote that book. Sounds familiar. The last name, not one of her relatives or anything.
Which
Uh,
one?
uh, anybody know? I don't want to say her name if it's the wrong, if it's the wrong name, but it just sounds familiar. It
Oh,
sounds like a Scientology
I,
name.
I missed the
What?
name. It just
It sounds like Spano. It just sounds like another family in Scientology.
it could be because yeah, his name is Frank and his last name is
Mm,
Spano. He's from
mm.
Los Angeles and he comes from, I know he was like a musician, not famous or
Okay,
anything,
wrong
but
one. Thank you. I'm glad I had the wrong one. Good.
oh,
Spallino. Okay. I'm glad I didn't say it. Okay. Yep.
uh,
Wrong name. Okay. It's not Spano, it's Spallino. Yeah. That's somebody
it is,
different. Completely different. Somebody great, not a bad person.
no, but I'm only bringing up that story because it is true that yeah, if stuff like that happens in Scientology, you can't, you are ordered to not contact law enforcement or SA
Yeah.
or
And
things
they
like.
and they deny that. They deny it. Just like disconnection. They deny that too. Yeah. It's
Yeah, and
just
I've
crazy.
experienced connection. I've experienced what I just told you, but I've experienced basically every bad thing that Scientology does, like all of its policies and stuff, whether it's been me and you know, I had a different, like I said, I have a weird story because I grew up in Scientology and I had to go through all of the stuff, but because I was honest with my auditors, I'm like, yeah, everyone I know is against Scientology or blah blah blah. I think they knew like, hey, this kid is really heavily indoctrinated with like the public school system or
Mhm.
whatever. Like, we can't really mess with her. We can't really do this. We can't really do that. Um, but there was a time where I spent probably 6 months being very, very I could feel it gripping hold of me, like the Scientology. I don't know if I should call it brainwashing, but I could feel it taking a hold of me where I was really starting to get into it. And it was because I was so tired of my parents constantly messing with me. And this is something I noticed that Scientology parents do. They're always messing with their kids. They're always like, what? Something's wrong with you. We're going to
Mm.
fix you. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with me, mom. I'm fine. Scientology parents do that though with their children a lot. And they think, and they're so proud because they're like, oh, we're not taking our children to a psychiatrist. We're having them handled with like L. Ron Hubbard stuff. But you know, my 5-year-old, that thought has not even crossed my mind. I don't look at my 5-year-old and think, what's wrong with her? What
Mhm.
can I fix her? There's something
Yeah.
wrong with her. Like that
No,
is
she's
not.
perfect. I know. Yeah, it's like it's so sad because, I remember, several ex-Scientologists saying that unconditional love is something that doesn't exist in Scientology. And it didn't exist in my cult either. Because there's always something wrong with you. We're never enough. And when I had my little precious kids, they're in their 20s now, they're total hellions. But yeah, you just love them no matter what. And that doesn't exist in cults. It's like you always have to earn it. And it's just sad. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. My
incredible.
heart goes out. Yeah, my heart goes out to all of you. So, speaking of, shameless commerce, I got a couple more super chats. Miss Intent, uh, what is that? Kiss and hug and a kiss? I think content creators deserve for people to appreciate them. Love you, Marilyn. Thank you, Miss Intent. Appreciate that. Sending you love, Marilyn. You're both such amazing women. Yes. I'm so glad you came. This was awesome. This was so much fun.
You owe me
And
half of what you're
yeah,
getting
I
from.
know. Well,
Just
well,
kidding.
YouTube takes
I'm just
30%.
kidding. No, I'm totally
Can you believe that though? YouTube takes 30%. It's insane.
joking.
But yes, I'll split it with you.
No, oh my goodness. No,
This
I mean, it's a joke.
is
People
so
get so
funny.
hung up on stuff, and I'm just like, dude, I don't care.
I
I just
know.
want to talk and like put the truth out for, all the bad things that are going on. And I know that you mean it. And I don't think we've ever had, who is a very good person, and I hope she's listening to this. I don't know if you've heard of Lucy. Lucy, oh God, she goes through a bunch of different names, but she used to be right when Aftermath started. Lucy, she was kind of like how you were. She was the one that was kind of carrying the weight for all of us, but in a good altruistic manner. She was interviewing Jehovah Witnesses, um, everything. And she's a very dear friend of mine. And if you ever see her, you'll know her. And she goes by Lucy or
See?
whatever, Lulu something. I think
Mhm.
she's been having some health problems, but we always, people like you and her are just, man, you guys are just, I love you guys. I really
I
do.
I love you guys too. I mean, you've given me so much. Like, it's just I feel like I have somebody to talk to about my crazy shit and that we can help each other and encourage each other to be able to talk and ask questions and hold space and not have that weird obligatory religion or whatever it is. I mean, I guess it's a religion, Scientology, but not have that mindset of like groupthink. And it's been so nice to talk to you. I mean, I really, really miss Doug so much. And I know you're a kindred spirit like Doug. So I really appreciate that. So
I
yeah,
I
so
think because you don't have like the Scientology connection though, and I think that's what makes you unique is, I don't know, everything you went through is basically what we went through, but
you're similar.
the
Yeah.
Holy Ghost thing
Holy
going.
Ghost. I know. You guys have Xenu and the body Thayans, and we have the Holy Ghost, and we have demons. Oh, Super Pup,
It is.
another oh my goodness, another super chat. This one's for you. Thank you both for taking time to share your stories with us. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Well, we're
you.
at over 2 hours. Wow, this flew
Oh my
by.
God.
It
Are you
really flew by.
serious?
Yes, 2 it says 2 hours and 13 minutes. So, let's do
Oh
this
my
again. I
goodness.
feel like this was sort of laying the groundwork for your story and where you're coming from, and there's still so many questions I wanted to ask you about this whole movement and all that, but everyone, please go to Dianne Etex. It's right there on the screen. Subscribe to Marisa, and I will be awaiting your next video with bells on. Really do. It's like you're the voice of reason and you just cut through all the bullshit and you just tell it like it is. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel the same about you. And I think next time, and I've told Liz this, I think it should be me, you, and Liz together.
Gail, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And she already
Yeah,
said,
she's 3 hours early, so yeah, I don't know if she can do nights, but we'll make it work. Maybe on a weekend or something. We can do during the day on a weekend.
yes, because I find her to be absolutely hilarious, and I think you're fun
She's so
too.
cute.
And
She was
oh,
so
and
funny
then
today with the dumpster fires. She had
oh,
these dumpster Did you see it?
I
She
saw
had a
that.
slide. She had like a slideshow about the Aftermath Foundation, and she had
I
like a dumpster
saw.
fire,
Oh
and
my,
she's little
she's
tiny. She had like this whole like flow chart or diagram with like tiny dumpster fires all over it. I
Her
can't.
imagination is a lot like mine. I think that's probably why
Yeah,
we get along so well,
I
but
love it.
she's fucking funny. And I actually I have met her in person once, and she's an amazing person. She's a
I know.
very
I can't
beautiful
wait to meet her.
soul.
Oh,
So
so
are
I do
you.
have these next to me. I'll show you before we go. I got to work on
Oh,
some more of this.
I've been wanting to see the whole yes.
Those are those are his feet.
How long does it take you to make one of those
Oh my
things?
God. Ugh, it's so hard
Like
to well,
a
with
month?
this, yeah, yeah, probably with my free time. Yeah, about a month. Yeah. Well,
Oh
it
my
depends on how
God.
long, how much I crochet. If I crocheted full time for a week, I probably could finish one. Or it's like,
How did
well,
you
no,
learn
I mean, not full time,
how
but if I did like 2.5 hours a day, so it's like 10 hours to make just this, and then you got the embroidery. It's a lot of hours.
how
You,
did you learn how to crochet? I know you gotta go soon, but like how did you learn
yeah.
how to do it?
Well, when I entered the foster home, I didn't know my biological mom crocheted. So maybe I have it in my blood. I don't know. But my adoptive mom taught me. And then when I was in the cult, I would crochet in the corner all the time because I was, we had in the Holy Ghost cult, we had what's called a calling. So you had a calling, and some people were prophetesses, some people were singers, like they called them minstrels. Some people were, like uh, like what do you call it, preachers or whatever. I was a helpmeet, which means I was a servant. So I would scrub things with ammonia water, and I would crochet. I would do all kinds of whatever, like labor. But at night when we were listening to our LRH type tapes, like the Hellfire and Brimstone cassettes, I would sit in the corner and crochet. And I swear, I think it really helped me to not dissociate from my body, because people were literally going insane around me, and I would just crochet. But now instead of crocheting like dishcloths, blankets, sweaters, and practical things, I crochet penises.
You're fucking funny. But that's a good sign. That means you're on your doing and you almost what's funny and it's funny as it sounds, that's like a sign of sanity. That you're crocheting penis.
Well, you know how like Aaron says, like he just has his YouTube channel to troll David Miscavige, and he just wants to piss him off and get revenge. That's me. That's like I just want to piss Marlene off, and nobody knows who what Door of Hope is, so I just make stuff to make fun of Scientology. You know, so
Oh my gosh. Well,
that's
it's
what
been
I
so
do.
awesome talking to you. And I'm actually making
Yeah,
bath. Always like I'm always in like the
nice,
art room where my stuff is, and it's
nice.
very messy. Oh my gosh. I don't think you get into that stuff, do you? Bath bombs and skin products.
Um, no, I mean, I used to do other crafts, but not really that, I like to can. I like to make like jams and jellies and stuff. Didn't do it this year, but I like to make, like pickles and stuff like that. Very
No,
old
if
fashioned.
I'll have to get in touch with you because if you like anything like bath bombs or skin, like bath stuff, I can make like tons and tons for you, and I'll like mail them to you for free.
All right, well,
So,
we can do an exchange. All right,
but thank
everyone,
you.
thank you so much. We're gonna sign off for now. We're at like, yeah, 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's been so much fun. Let's do it again soon. Totally.
Okay.
You know.
I love you,
All right.
Carolyn. I will
Love
tell,
you.
I want to do it with you. Oh my God, that sounds weird. I want to do it with
That's
you
okay.
and
And
I
Liz,
want to do it with
definitely.
you and Liz too.
All right.
Would
Don't
you
hang
be
up
okay?
quite yet. I'm just gonna say bye to everybody, and we'll see you guys later.
That would
Bye.